Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, this is Jesse with the Common Nerd, and I'm sure you've probably all known for quite a while that monopolies are generally a bad thing. They don't pan out very well for industries, they stunt growth, things just don't generally go very well, and of course when you only have one place that you can get things from, they can charge whatever they want, and things don't generally go very well because guess what? Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And well, ladies and gentlemen, that's exactly what's happened to Diamond Comic Distributors. Now, if you guys don't know who Diamond is, they have been the go-to source for any kind of retailers out there for comic books from DC or Marvel for essentially the last 40 years. They had a stranglehold on the industry for quite a long time, and guess what? The comic book industry found out how much of a bad idea monopolies actually are back in 2020 when Diamond decided to shut down because of all the crazy government lockdowns and everything else. And guess what? Marvel and DC had nowhere to get their comics printed and distributed. So basically this has been a long time coming, and we all kind of saw the writing on the wall for Diamond, and well, now it's finally come. And boys and girls, whether or not you're a fan of Diamond or anything like that, or whether or not you really care too much about comic books, at the end of the day, this is the end to an industry titan that had a stranglehold on the comic book industry for a very long time, and another great example of why monopolies are always a bad idea. Because as you can see over here from our dear sweet friends at bleedingfool.com, comic book distributors' last stand. Diamond falls into Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And boys and girls, seeing a lot of the crazy success that goes on out there in the independent sphere with a lot of the comics and stuff like this might be a great time for people like Eric July or the Rippaverse Corporate or the Rippaverse Company out there to go in and buy up some of the pieces from Diamond out there, because that's one of the best parts about it's one of the best parts about bankruptcy for other people who want to come in and buy assets worth of this stuff is you can pick up whatever piece of the company you want, and depending on how they divide it all up. This is exactly what we're seeing with Ubisoft in the video game industry right now, where a lot of the big companies out there could come in and buy the company, but why not just wait for it to go bankrupt? Then you can buy off all the pieces for a whole lot cheaper, and you don't need a lot of the same kind of baggage. So this could be an interesting move for a lot of people out there. I don't know what's actually going to happen with this kind of stuff, but there are a lot of people that are already interested in buying up the pieces of Diamond, and well, boys and girls, this is the end of an absolute industry titan. So we're going to check out this article from bleedingfool.com, getting all of the juicy details, but before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we just crossed 1,500. We're on our way to 16, and I could not do that without every single one of you. Also, leave us a comment in the section down below. Do you not know much about Diamond and the stranglehold that they had on Marvel and DC? Are you curious to find out a little bit more about that? Does it surprise you that a company like this got completely and totally ostracized when they were the only ones out there? Do you agree that this adds to the good stories that monopolies are absolutely always a bad thing? What do you think is going to change in the comic book industry going forward now that Diamond is completely and totally kerfunk? Let us know what you think about all that in the comment section down below. And if you'd like to help support the channel, please check out the links in the description as well. So from bleedingfool.com and Chris Braley, Diamond Comic Distributors, once the titan of the comic book distribution, has filed for Chapter 11C bankruptcy protection, marking a seismic shift in the comic book industry. And hey, for all those people out there that say, well, some of these corporations are just too big to fail, no one is too big to fail. And I don't think the federal government's going to be coming in and saving them anytime soon, considering who's coming into office. The development comes as no surprise to industry insiders who have been watching the slow decline of traditional comic book sales since even before the COVID-19 pandemic disrupted the market in 2020. The bankruptcy filing announced today on January 4th, 2025 is likely a direct result of the splintering that occurred when Diamond temporarily shut down operations during the early days of the pandemic. The closure forced major publishers like DC Comics and Marvel to seek alternative distribution methods, ultimately leading to a permanent shift away from Diamond's near monopoly on comic distribution. And that just once again leads to the credence of why a monopoly is always a bad idea. Competition breeds excellence, and having to go for the same source for all of your work out there, well, it doesn't work out very well. It's like if you only get your sources, if you only buy one kind of milk, or if you only get your milk from one store or something like that, and you refuse to go anywhere else, or if for some reason your area only has one store and that store gets closed down, well, guess what? That's a problem. You need competition out there in order to things do well. And I mean, over the years, we have heard horror story after horror story from your local comic book shops and the way dealing with Diamond and all the nonsense and all the garbage and everything else. So honestly, there's probably a lot of people out there in the comic book industry that are probably breathing a sigh of relief that they're no longer going to have to deal with Diamond. As part of the restructuring efforts, Diamond has secured a $39 million staking horse bid from the Universal Distribution for its Alliance Game Distributors division. The company has also obtained $41 million in possession financing to maintain operations during the bankruptcy process. The staking horse bid from Universal Distribution will be a critical element of any restructuring strategy, getting a minimum price for the auction, which can attract other bidders and potentially drive up the sale price. This bid signifies some confidence from Universal in Diamond's potential and may facilitate a smoother transition during the bankruptcy process. The roots of Diamond's downfall can be traced back to March of 2020, when comic book sales plummeted due to widespread store closures and economic uncertainty. The industry's reliance on a single distributor became glaringly apparent, prompting the publisher to diversify the distribution channels. DC Comics was the first to cut ties with Diamond in June of 2020, setting off a chain reaction that would ultimately lead to Diamond losing 84% of its comic periodical business by 2023. 84%. That is devastating. No company can survive losing 84% of its business. Do you think your local McDonald's could survive if 80% of its customers all of a sudden walked away? No way in hell. This was obviously something that was absolutely in the cards from Diamond for quite a while. So despite a brief resurgence in the comic book sales during the pandemic, with overall sales reaching a record of $1.28 billion in 2020, the industry has struggled to maintain any momentum. The year since has been seen a decline in traditional American comic book sales, even as manga has experienced significant growth. There's still fans out there for fantasy in like book form out there with lots of pretty pictures and great stories. And guess what? DC and Marvel aren't giving us their stories. They're all concentrating on a bunch of identity politics nonsense. They're trying to insert all this stuff. They're race swapping characters. They're trying to change backstories. They're turning good guys into villains and villains into good guys. It's just a bunch of nonsense garbage, and these characters aren't true to the people that the lore and what they've always has come before them. So of course they're not giving us good escapism. They're gonna fail and flop. And it's sad, as a guy that's an absolute DC fanboy, I hate to see the comic book industry go down this path. Fortunately enough for all of us out there, we've got a good 80 to 100 years worth of comics that are actually still pretty good and definitely 99% better than any of the garbage they're trying to bring us out there right now. And I guarantee you most of us haven't read 90% of it. So trust me, we are not hurting for entertainment, boys and girls. All you gotta do is go back and read the classics, and trust me, you're going to like those a lot better than the stuff nowadays, too. So the closure of hundreds of comic book stores between 2020 and 24 has further exacerbated the challenges faced by publishers and distributors alike. And why have those comic book shops closed? Because the main two, Marvel and DC, have been putting out crap and garbage modern audience comics that, guess what? A modern audience doesn't exist. They don't buy your stuff, and they certainly can't keep any of your local comic shops afloat, or even distributors like Diamond. Diamond's recent troubles have been compounded by distribution delays and quality control issues. The abrupt closure of the Pittsburgh distribution center in December led to widespread delays and damaged products, frustrating retailers and readers. These operational challenges, coupled with the loss of major publishers, have left Diamond in a precarious position. While much of the mainstream comic industry press has maintained that the comic book industry is in a healthy place, well, maybe Transformers is, because that new Transformers run and the new G.I. Joe stuff is really, really good. So I know those are doing gangbusters. Hell, I think they even beat Spider-Man in May of last year for total sales. So yeah, no, there are certain aspects, and guess what? If you read the Transformers comic, it's just like it's Transformers. Optimus Prime is Optimus Prime. The villains are the villains. It's everything you expect from a Transformers comic. If anything, dialed up to 11, it's a little more gnarly. I'm just going to put it that way. It's a little more gnarly. I highly recommend it. Go read it. So they're blaming ongoing struggles on the after effects of COVID, because of course they're going to forever and ever and ever. The reality appears more grim. The industry continues to face significant challenges in adapting to changing customer habits and distribution models. And the two biggest publishers have been alienating readers for the past several years by seemingly focusing on identity politics as much as they do in an entertaining storyline. And honestly, there's arguments that we can say that they've been literally ostracizing fans for like the last couple of decades with a lot of just their really bad storylines. It's like just all the woke stuff's just what's happened in the last few years to a certain degree, but there's always been elements of that stuff in there for a while. But what's really bad is just a bunch of really poor storytelling and a bunch of bad people that are in charge. Tom King, we're looking at you, buddy. I mean, Hamada, all the rest of these guys over there. I mean, it's just been bad. It's just been bad for a long, bad time. A lot of bad decisions. Bad decisions. As Diamond Comic Book Distributors enters bankruptcy proceedings, the future of the comic book distribution remains uncertain. The company's restructuring efforts and potential sales of its various divisions may reshape the landscape of comic book collectibles distribution. The success of Diamond's reorganization will depend on several factors, including the response from creditors, the effectiveness of the restructuring plan, and the competition landscape post-bankruptcy. The company's ability to attract additional investments or bidders will be crucial if they have any future viability. For an industry built on the adventures of superheroes, the greatest challenge now lies in navigating the real-world obstacles of a rapidly evolving market. And you know what? I'm going to disagree with Bleeding Fool a little bit on there. The market hasn't changed. The customers haven't changed. Comic book fans haven't changed. We're the same as we've always been, right? We love good stories with great art, that don't talk down to us, that just give us good escapism, hot chicks, heroes that look like heroes, just all of that kind of basic, simple stuff. It's really not rocket science. And the reason why, and the proof that it's not rocket science, is look at the indie industry. out there, right? You've got great examples like Eric July with the Ripverse. You've got my friend Jason Sandberg out there that's done really good with his stuff. My buddy Hojo with Mythicals, all of this kind of stuff out there. Jupiter, like there's been a lot of great things out there in the independent sphere that have done really, really well. And guess what? They didn't need Diamond. They didn't need Marvel. They didn't need DC. They didn't need any of these major corporations because that's what's happened. It's decentralized things. So you're right. The industry, Bleeding Fool, you're right to a certain degree. The industry has changed a lot. We've disrupted all of the legacy institutions. We've decentralized the comic book industry. And guess what? It's thriving for a lot of people out there. But of course, places like Comic Book Resources and the legacy media, those places are never going to talk about, what's going on with the Rippaverse or what's going on with any of the rest of these. Fund My Comic is plastered all over Bleeding Fool's thing. I love fundmycomic.com. Those guys are great over there. They've got a lot of great indie stuff over there. Rippa's doing it all in-house. We talked about Rippa being able to go out there and buy certain sections of Diamond to maybe be able to distribute his comics even farther, maybe get them to into even more LCSs, so that way he can just increase his company and grow. I mean, there's a million different things out there. There's a million different options. There's so many alternatives, and there's so many good stories out there, not only in all of the classics, which if you like doing that, come join us on 32 Flavors and Nick Weiser's for Clobby's Clubhouse on Friday nights at 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. But if there's so many of the classics out there, and that's what we review on that show, but there's also so much good stuff in the independent sphere out there. I guarantee you, if you are looking for a fresh new comic that you want to get into from some good, solid people, go over to fundmycomic.com. Go check out their stuff. Go check out the Rippaverse. There's a million of alternative options out there that you can find the niche. You can find things you like. Guess what, Diamond? We haven't needed you for a long time, and truth be told, no one ever really did. You just strong-arm a bunch of people into taking your deals, and well, guess what? You got your monopoly for as long as you lasted, and now you find yourself completely and totally bankrupt. And honestly, from all the stories I've heard, you've gotten exactly what you deserve, Diamond.